Stop collecting lessons. Start mastering one. The sound of the coffee machine filled the quiet cafe. Outside, the city was waking up. Inside, I sat with my headphones on, listening to the same English story for the seventh morning in a row. The same voice, the same words, the same rhythm. Yet something felt different today. The story was no longer just a story. It felt like a song that I had finally learned to hum without thinking. What if the secret to fluency is not learning more, but repeating less? What if the power is not in new lessons, but in old words learned deeply? What if the most powerful thing you can do for your English is to stop rushing? Welcome to Learn English Listening. My name is Lydia. I help you listen like a native, one story at a time. For years, I did what everyone told me to do. I downloaded new apps. I opened 10 lessons in one morning. I made endless lists of vocabulary. My notebook looked full. My mind did not. Every time I finished one lesson, I felt proud for a moment and empty again the next. I kept moving forward, but I never arrived anywhere. My English knowledge spread wide like water, but it never soaked deep enough to stay. There were nights I sat at my desk, repeating words from flashcards, only to forget them the next day. I wondered if my brain was broken, but it was not. I was simply filling it faster than it could breathe. Then one quiet morning, it hit me. My problem was not my memory. It was my speed. I was learning too fast to truly learn at all. Tell me, which city are you joining us from, and what hour is it there right now? I love to know where your learning story begins today. If you feel tired of collecting lessons and still not improving, stay with me. Today, we will slow down together. We will rediscover what it means to learn deeply. Because sometimes the best way to move forward is to stop running. When I first moved to Canada, I knew every grammar rule. I could explain the past tense perfectly. I could fill every blank on every worksheet. But when I opened my mouth to speak, nothing came out. My brain was full, but my voice was empty. I stood there, silent, translating every word in my head, losing my confidence with every pause. I felt like an actor who knew all the lines but forgot how to breathe. I felt stuck between knowing and speaking, between theory and life, between study and expression. I remember walking home after class, replaying every mistake in my mind. I told myself, I studied so much. Why can't I speak? The truth was painful. I was learning, but I was not connecting. Most learners feel the same way. They study 10 lessons in 1 week. They fill notebooks with rules and definitions. But when someone asks a simple question, they freeze. It is not because they are lazy. It is because they never had time to learn deeply. In school, we are told to move fast, finish the textbook, start the next one. Speed becomes success. But real fluency does not grow from speed. It grows from stillness, from hearing one phrase again and again until it becomes part of you. Have you ever felt like you study English every day, yet nothing really changes when you speak? You understand everything in your head, but your tongue feels locked. That is not failure. That is shallow learning. You are repeating information, not experience. When we learn something quickly, we remember it for a test. When we learn something deeply, we remember it for life. So do not rush. Slow down. The brain loves repetition. The heart loves rhythm. Together, they create memory. You are not behind. You are simply building roots that no one can see yet. A tree does not grow tall before it grows deep. Neither does your English. Fluency is not about finishing books. It is about mastering one story so well that your thoughts begin to flow in English. Let me show you the hidden key that turns confusion into confidence. The secret is simple. Repetition is the mother of skill. This phrase means that doing something many times is how real mastery begins. Every athlete, every musician, every speaker knows this truth. But language learners forget it. They chase variety instead of depth. The second phrase is muscle memory. It means your body learns with your brain. When you repeat a phrase many times, your mouth, your ears, and your brain begin to move together. The words start to come without effort. That is fluency. The third phrase is less is more. The fewer lessons you study, the faster you grow if you study them deeply. I remember one student from Japan. She listened to one short podcast every day for 14 days. At first, she said it felt boring. On day 7, she said it felt easier. On day 10, she said something beautiful. She said, "It is not boring anymore. It feels like the story is inside me now." That is the moment when repetition becomes rhythm, when learning feels like music, when the same story no longer repeats, it flows. If this message makes sense to you so far, write the word deep in the comments. Let us see how many of us are ready to learn deeply. What about you? Have you ever repeated one English story for a whole week? Did something change for you? The real miracle of repetition is that it changes silence into speech. The first day you only understand. The 7th day you respond. The 14th day you begin to speak with ease. The hidden key is not more information. It is transformation through repetition. When you repeat what you love, it no longer feels like study. It feels like breathing. One winter morning, I almost gave up. I had been studying for months, yet my English still sounded broken. I was tired of repeating the same lesson. I thought maybe I was not talented enough. But that morning, something unexpected happened. I pressed play on an old story, the same voice, the same rhythm. But suddenly, I understood every word, every pause, every expression. The story that once confused me now felt clear, alive, and easy. That was the moment I knew. Deep learning works. Fluency is not a magic gift. It is a slow sunrise that appears after many quiet mornings. The fourth phrase is to sink in. It means when something slowly becomes part of your understanding. When you listen again and again, the meaning begins to sink in. You do not notice when it happens, but one day you just know. The fifth phrase is stick with it. It means to keep going, even when it feels boring or hard. Because every day you repeat, your mind is changing. You cannot see it, but the progress is there, hidden under the surface. Learning English deeply is like polishing a stone. At first, it looks dull. Then, with every repetition, it starts to shine. The shine may come slowly, but it lasts forever. If you could change just one habit in your English practice this month, what would it be? Would you try slowing down? Would you pick one story and listen for a week? That day, when I realized I could finally understand everything, I cried a little. Not because I learned something new, but because I finally learned something fully. That is the peace deep learning gives you. From that moment, I stopped collecting lessons. I started mastering one. Imagine listening to one story under the same morning light every day. The same voice, the same feeling. Then one morning, the words no longer sound foreign. They sound like your own. You do not translate anymore. You simply understand. Maybe you walk through the park, and suddenly a phrase appears in your mind like a familiar friend. Maybe you hear a word on the radio and realize you understand it without trying. That is how deep learning grows. Quietly, gently, faithfully. Choose one story today. Listen to it for 7 days. Do not rush. Do not watch. Let your brain breathe. Let the phrases sink in. You may feel bored on day 3. You may feel restless on day 5. But stay with it, because something beautiful is growing inside you. The rhythm of English, the calm of focus, the peace of progress. Fluency is not a race. It is a sunrise. Slow, gentle, certain. Every repetition is another ray of light breaking through. Learning deeply is not about perfection. It is about connection. Between your heart and your words. Between your memory and your voice. So breathe, listen again, let every word become part of you. As this video ends, maybe you are ready to slow down. Maybe you are ready to learn deeply. The real change begins not when you learn new words, but when the old ones start living inside you. You have a choice. You can keep collecting more lessons, more lists, more rules. Or you can master one story until it feels like your own heartbeat. At this moment, you stand between comfort and growth. Which path will you take? If this story gave you something meaningful, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And subscribe to keep walking with us on this journey of English and self-growth. In our next session, I will show you how to build your 15-minute daily repetition habit. You will discover how to make English learning part of your life, not a subject in your notebook. This is Lydia from Learn English Listening. Keep your mind calm, keep your heart open, and keep your practice deep.